Signs of a slight easing in the cost of living crisis as inflation dips to 8.5% in the eurozone.
Britain brought to a standstill. 500,000 teachers, civil servants and train drivers go on strike in the largest industrial action seen for a decade.
Inflation in the eurozone has fallen for the third month in a row, down to 8.5% from 9.2%. The drop's being linked to an easing of fuel prices across the 20 countries that use the single currency. Costs have been rising for more than a year, but they accelerated dramatically after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which sent oil and gas prices soaring. However, food, alcohol and tobacco remain more than 14% higher than 12 months ago. And while this latest fall will be welcomed by governments and the European Central Bank, it's unlikely to bring much relief to households struggling with Europe's cost of living crisis. The ECB has an annual inflation target of 2%, and it's expected to continue with its policy in recent months of interest rate hikes. The bank meets on Thursday, and analysts anticipate a further half percentage point increase to get prices under control.
It was dubbed Walkout Wednesday, and walkout they did. Britain has been brought to a standstill, as up to 500,000 teachers, civil servants and train drivers went on strike in the largest industrial action seen for a decade. They're demanding pay rises and better working conditions.
We do need to be paid more, but I think education in general, we just need more money, more staff, more competition in teaching as well, so a head teacher has a choice to choose between 20 teachers rather than just 2, so that our children get a higher quality education. Yeah, I think we just need more.
It's just a political choice, really, because I know there's money. There's money in this country. It's one of the richest countries in Europe. It's just that state school students are not valued enough to have more money spent on their education.
Unions are threatening more disruption as the government digs its heels in over pay demands. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak condemned the action, which forced millions of children to miss school. His government has taken a hard line against arguing that giving in to demands for large wage hikes would further fuel Britain's inflation problem.
Since the Russians fled the Ukrainian city of Kherson, their bombs have disfigured the face of the city, the only provincial capital they occupied at the beginning of the war. For 8 months, its inhabitants lived with the invaders, who are now known to have installed a whole network of torture chambers in the bowels of the city. The Ukrainian authorities are investigating hundreds of cases of torture.
Загалом вже ми маємо близько 300 підтверджених випадків утримання і катувань саме в цьому приміщенні, і ця робота триває, тобто цифра зростає фактично щодня.
They've found rooms turned into dungeons. And in the torture chambers, there's ample evidence of the Russian army's practices.
Може достатньо свідчень тих, кого там утримували. Ми можемо вже казати, що так, був струм, були протигази, перекривалося повітря, позбавляли їжі, позбавляли сну цілі камери, дуже сильно били.
Personal belongings, leftover food, some documents. The floors of these cellars are mute witnesses of what happened inside. The Russian anthem scrawled on the walls supports a recurring complaint. The detainees were forced to learn it by heart.
Pope Francis had delivered a message of peace and forgiveness to more than 1 million people gathered for a special mass in Kinshasa. He's on a 6-day visit to the Democratic Republic of the Congo and South Sudan, two of Africa's most deeply war-ravaged countries. Jesus Christ wants us to come together in his forgiveness, to give us peace and the fortitude and become able to pardon too. This is the courage to grant a great amnesty of the heart. It's so healthy to clear out our heart of the rage, of the regret, of every resentment and envy. My beloved, may today be the day of grace to host the forgiveness of Jesus. The Pope's visit is aimed at refocusing world attention on a region where internecine conflict has raged for years, involving multiple armed groups. It also reflects the growing popularity and influence of the Roman Catholic Church in this and other parts of Africa.
A jury in Vienna is considering its verdict in the trial of 6 men accused of involvement in a terrorist gun attack in the city in November 2020, in which 4 people died. Prosecutors say the men either helped or influenced Islamic State sympathiser Qasim Fezullah as he prepared for the shooting. The defendants, aged between 22 and 32, face charges including participation in terrorist crimes and membership in a terrorist organisation. The attack unfolded in a popular nightclub district of the Austrian capital. Fezullah opened fire on people with a Kalashnikov rifle. He was eventually tracked down and shot dead by security forces. A police officer was among more than 20 people injured in the rampage. The 6 accused are expected to hear a verdict today. Renowned actor Alec Baldwin and the armourer of the film Rust have been formally charged with involuntary manslaughter in the fatal shooting of a camera person on set. Helena Hutchins died in hospital after she was shot in the chest by a prop gun allegedly fired by Baldwin during a rehearsal near Santa Fe, New Mexico. The charging document outlines at least a dozen, quote, acts or omissions of recklessness leading up to the shooting. If found guilty, the accused pair could face up to 18 months in prison and a €4,600 fine.
Norway is growing richer by the minute, with the war in Ukraine days away from the 1-week mark. Since last year, the Scandinavian country has redoubled efforts to compensate the drop in Russian gas supplies to Europe following Moscow's invasion. But its Prime Minister insists it's not a war profiteer.
Money coming in from sales of oil and gas does not come to my budget. It comes into the pension funds, and this is our way of spreading those incomes to future generations. We are committed in Norway to maintain a high level of support to Ukraine. Norway is a fortunate country. We have income, we have, a possibility to make a difference, and I feel that responsibility.
Oslo has boosted gas exports by 8 to 10% and is now Europe's biggest supplier, helping the continent stay warm this winter. This year, the government forecasts its biggest ever budget surplus of 1.12 trillion kroner. The cash will help fuel Norway's sovereign wealth fund, already the world's largest.